Before I get into the topic of this video, I want to ask you, if you watched a few of my videos and enjoyed them, please subscribe. It's the button right down there. My hope is to build an audience that will help convince a publisher to publish my book, and you subscribing would be a big help. Now, on with the video. I don't believe most parents understand the real purpose of school. Why do we require children to attend 5 years of elementary school, 3 years of middle school, and 4 years of high school? It's not just to get them out of the way until they're 18, and it's not just to learn the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. I look at school in a rather simplistic way. The main purpose of elementary school is to learn to love to learn. In middle school, the number one objective is to learn how to learn. High school is all about learning the basics of critical thinking. We don't send our kids to school to memorize a whole bunch of stuff that is basically worthless to the average adult. I mean, how many of you have used the Pythagorean theorem lately or discussed cellular mitosis? I could go on, but I'm sure you get my point. Schooling, at its essence, is about learning how to think and solve problems. And that is the essence of an independent, confident, good decision maker. Who would have thunk it? In this video, I'm going to talk briefly about primary and secondary school, elementary, middle, and high school. I could do an entire video on each, but here I only want to introduce what I consider to be the most critical aspect, the essence of each level of schooling. Elementary school, learning to love to learn. The elementary school my son attended wasn't really all that great in preparing their students for the academic rigor of middle school and high school. It wasn't. The school he attended only went through the 6th grade, just elementary. I spoke to many parents whose children went on to other schools after attending that elementary school, and many of their kids had a bit of trouble catching up academically. But here's what his school did do, and they did it amazingly well. The vast majority of the kids there really and truly loved school and loved learning when they graduated and left for middle school. My son was one of them. He had a deep love of school and the school process of learning. When he attended his new middle school, he was a bit shocked at how many of the other kids were already in the I hate school mindset. I mean, they were only 7th graders and they already hated school. You know, this is the school part, classes and learning. That's bad. My son and the vast majority of the kids he had gone to school with through the 6th grade were excited and motivated to learn. Academically, of course, elementary schools where you learn to read and start doing basic math, other kinds of academic foundational skills that are necessary to get through middle school and high school. But again, learning to love to learn is, in my opinion, the one overarching goal of what elementary school should be all about. That's it. That's what elementary school is. If your child goes in middle school with the attitude that school is fun and learning can be a lot of fun, then you succeeded. They succeeded. Let's move on to middle school. Learning how to learn. Personally, I believe the middle school years are the most important school years. If your child learns to love to learn and then learns how to learn, the sky's the limit. Now, I'm going to spend a bit of time discussing middle school because of how important these years are in developing your ICD child. Your independent, confident, good decision maker. I'm only going to focus here on the academic, not the social. Social development during those years is super important stuff, but I'll save that discussion for another video. From my perspective, nothing that happens in middle school ever goes on a college application or resume. No one puts their middle school grades on either of those documents. So it really doesn't matter if you get straight A's, C's, or something worse in middle school. In the long run, it doesn't matter and no one cares. Then, if that's the case, what's the point of middle school? Your child's middle school years are critical in many ways, but learning how to learn is one of the most important things they need to do during this time. Middle school is the training ground, the preparation for your high school education. For many kids, that means struggling academically, but that struggle has great value. That ties in perfectly with raising your child to be an ICD adult. Remember, overcoming adversity and learning to live at the boundaries of your abilities is all about, it's all part of becoming an ICD adult. My wife and I got very lucky. The school my son attended had a great approach during these critical years. His school basically overburdened the middle schoolers academically. Because their grades would never show up on a college application, his school challenged each student up to and beyond their natural academic abilities. This approach resulted in many times in students getting lower grades than they were used to. Is that a bad thing? Absolutely not. You'll learn more from failure than you ever will from success. A big part of learning how to learn is learning how to differentiate between facts and opinion. In today's world, the line between fact and opinion is often blurred. Your middle schooler needs to understand how to separate these two to truly learn a subject before rendering an opinion on a subject. Whether your child grows up to be an auto mechanic or a doctor, it doesn't matter. In whatever career they choose, they will have to be able to separate opinion from fact to do their job. That's learning how to learn. A good auto mechanic is not really interested in what you think is wrong with your car. They need facts to fix it. Where is the unusual sound coming from? When did you hear it? How long has it been making that noise? The same goes for a doctor. Where in your leg is the pain? What specific spot? When did you first notice the discomfort? Any changes in your exercise or diet recently? Doctors need facts to solve your problems, just like auto mechanics. However, that is not to discount the fact that recognizing opinion and feelings often goes a long way towards solving a problem. Learning to differentiate between facts and opinion is essential in the learning process, learning how to learn. The typical middle school consists of grades 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We all know that. Many teachers and school administrators will tell you that their students during these years are simultaneously at their best and worst. These are critical years in the development of your child. The difference between a 5th grade student and a 9th grade student are extreme. You can help your future ICD adult make the most of their middle school years by helping them to see the value of learning how to learn. And in my opinion, downplaying the grades they receive during those years. Learning how to learn will serve your ICD adult very well when they're older, when they are adults. Lastly, high school. Your son or daughter first learned to love to learn. Then they learned how to learn. Now it's time for them to start to develop their critical thinking skills. This is the final stretch. Once your child graduates from high school and leaves home, you will never again have the amount of influence that you have with them right now while they are living with you. Your job for your high school student is to encourage them to solve the most complex problems they can. A middle school student spends a great deal of the time memorizing facts, and memorizing is important. But the ability to understand a problem and connect the dots is what really matters. That's saying hello to critical thinking skills. Don't be upset if your star middle school student struggles in their freshman or sophomore year of high school. Critical thinking skills don't come easy to most people, but once developed, they will serve your son or daughter for their entire life. Solving complex problems requires effort, brain effort. As a parent, your responsibility is to encourage your son or daughter to challenge themselves with new concepts. Most high school students have to take geometry. I consider the subject the bastard child of the mathematics family. Geometry was a very interesting point in my son's academic life. From the few other families we knew in high school, this class was often the great divider. In the 9th grade at my son's school, each student was either in the regular class or the honors class for English, math, and science. It was very interesting how many parents decided their child was better served in the regular class versus the honors class. The difference between the regular and honors class is that an honors class moves at a faster pace and goes more in-depth than a regular college prep class. In honors classes, teachers expect more from their students in terms of class preparation, participation, and of course studying. 2 years later, in the 11th grade, advanced placement, AP classes are introduced into the curriculum. In theory, an AP class is to an honors class what an honors class is to a regular college prep class. Regular, honors, AP. Each was a step up into a higher level of effort and a higher level of intellectual challenge. In the ninth grade, why did so many parents allow their children to drop from honors to regular? Why in the 11th grade did so many parents discourage their children from taking an AP class over an honors class? I believe I know exactly why they did it, and it's the opposite of raising an ICD adult. Earlier, I said that middle school grades are meaningless. No one will ever see them. However, high school is the exact opposite. Every grade in high school will become a part of your child's permanent transcript that will eventually be sent to every college they apply to, if that's their route. I believe that the parents that literally downgraded their child's educational experience, regular rather than honors, or honors rather than AP, were more concerned with the grades that would become part of their child's transcript than they were with their child's intellectual development. I do believe that some of these students were better served in a lower level class, but I have no doubt that many of these kids chose those lower level classes because they preferred having an A on their transcript rather than a B. In Georgia, where my son lived until he was 18, there were parents that actually moved to poor middle Georgia districts where their child was more likely to be in the top 5% of the class. These parents actually moved so their kids could achieve a higher class ranking. That to me is disturbing. Now, back to geometry. My son struggled through his geometry class. My wife and I, with our son, met with his teacher around the middle of the fall semester. We discussed the class and my son's performance from the beginning of that semester. Now, the teacher spoke about what was ahead for him and what was expected of him. The four of us, my wife, my son, and I, and the teacher, felt that staying in the class was in my son's best interest. We all knew his grade would be below what he normally received in a class, but the struggle to perform would serve as an important lesson for him. Dropping him to a lower level class in the pursuit of a higher final grade would have been a mistake. Thank goodness we took that approach, keep him in the higher level class. At the time, my initial reaction was to move him to a lower level class. Thank goodness for my wife. Rather than quit, which is what that approach really was, throwing in the towel, we came up with a plan to help him get through what was a rather difficult subject for him. By sticking with that class, my son was forced to reevaluate his homework and his studying habits. He ended up trying several different studying styles. He eventually found one, fortunately, that worked well for him. By the end of the semester, his grade had improved, but more importantly, he had proven to himself that he could prevail if he applied a logical and reasoned approach to solve his problem. I believe struggling through that class was a turning point for him. He learned that he was capable of performing at a higher level if he put in the effort. He learned to better evaluate his expectations and that sometimes it's necessary to alter your approach to succeed. My son learned at a relatively young age that sometimes the answer to a problem lies down an unfamiliar path. This is the essence of critical thinking, developing the mindset to question, doubt, and explore to get to the finish line, to solve the problem. Critical thinkers do not constantly rely on the tried and true. They allow their minds to search for answers outside of their normal comfort zones, beyond the boundaries of their abilities. Thank goodness he stuck it out and pushed through that class. I'm thankful for my wife for making that happen. High school is all about developing your child's critical thinking skills. I've mentioned in earlier videos that life is basically a long series of problem solving. If your child develops his or her critical thinking skills to their utmost, then they have succeeded. It doesn't matter whether college comes next or a job. They will be prepared to start their long journey of never-ending problem solving. That's life. Raising an independent, confident, good decision maker is about preparing your child to live their best life, helping them to learn to love to learn, how to learn, and then get them started on developing critical thinking skills will give them the building blocks to build their own amazing life. Thanks for listening.